Let's talk about data types today. Data types is one of the most fundamental tools, fundamental concepts when working with spreadsheets. What are data types? They are what the definition of each of these pieces of data is. So if you went to format, number, you'd see all the different kinds of data. It can be text, it can be numbers, it can be percent, it can be scientific notation, accounting, all these different things. Dates, obviously, times. There's even other custom ones that you can create. And from that, you see all these different data types here. You see there's numbers right here, text here, more text. You can actually even format numbers as text. You wouldn't do that, obviously, but just so you know, you can force a format upon a different one. Something may look like one kind of data may actually be another. So it's something to be aware of, that you may need to change the data type if a VLOOKUP isn't working, or a filter isn't working, or a formula of another kind isn't working. It might be a data type issue, and we'll go over that here in a minute. So numbers, some example of numbers, obviously, you can have fractions or whole numbers, you can have dates. And here's another example of, see, here's the date formatted as a date, and here's the date formatted as a number. So it obviously looks weird. It actually is the same concept. So these are saying the same thing, it's just different data type. So it's an important concept to understand. Again, it'll cause some problems in your spreadsheet sometimes. You won't know why. It might be a data type issue. So let's look at some examples here. So here, these are some examples of text and strings. As you see, you'll get an error sometimes if you try to add a string to anything else, really, a string or text. Text and a string are the same thing. But if you try to add this to a number, it's not going to work, right? Because you can't add a word to a number. So you'll see here, it'll tell you the error. You see the formula is E5 plus C5, E5 plus E5, and it's not going to work. You cannot do that kind of math. It's not going to work. But you can combine two strings, two pieces of text. So in this case, I'm taking C5. I'm using the ampersand, which is the same thing as saying combine this, add this together for non-numbers. I'm adding it to this text in the middle, and then I'm putting on E5. And so I can combine text like that. It's a nice, neat way to do it. You can also use the concat or concatenate formula. It's the same thing. But the point is, you can combine text somewhat how you'd add numbers. Obviously, numbers add in a different way, but you can combine two cells of text to make them into one. Here's another example of numbers. These, you can add numbers. You can also, funnily enough, concatenate numbers. I don't know how often you would ever really need to do this, but you can combine F5 and H5, F5 and H5, 20 and 43832. There's the 20 and 43832. Maybe there's an occasion to use it. I don't think I have before, but you can do that also. And the computer is smart enough to know when you are concatenating numbers, it treats them as text. So it doesn't add them, right? When you put the ampersand in, it doesn't add them. This one adds them, this one does not. So it can be smart. And the same thing actually works for the math. If you did equals here, and you took the text version of the number, and you added it to another number, the Google Sheet will know what you're trying to do and convert it for you. So in some cases, they'll save you from your own errors. But in other cases, you may have data type issues if you're having a formula error. So keep that in mind. And here's just some more date functions. So this is, here I'm formatting this as a date. And I'm using the formula EO month is end of month. So it takes a cell, in this case G5, and gives me the end of the month 4 months later. Just a good function to know. These are just other formulas for working with dates. So not really about data types, but when you do have a date, you can run certain functions on it because it is a date. So you can take a date difference between two dates. You can take the year from a date, a month from a date, a day from a date, and you can then convert numbers into a date. So this formula takes the year from this date, the month from that date, and the day from that date. It adds 1 to the year and 1 to the month, and it converts that into a date. So it's actually taking 3 numbers and creating a date. And then this one is just taking a date and adding 60 days. So depending on the data type, you can do certain things or you can't do certain things with the data. It's something to keep in mind. Again, you'll have some errors, but it also can be really powerful to know that you can do certain things depending on the data type. It is definitely a powerful tool. So you can play with the spreadsheet, you can make a copy of it and do some of the stuff, but it's a fundamental concept in working with spreadsheets and working with data to understand what is your data type, why are you choosing that data type, and how will it behave when you apply certain formulas to it.